Hello and welcome. It's Sweety here. I hope you're having a nice day. Eid is right around the corner, and I thought it would be fun to make 5 clean, simple, and easy cards for the occasion. Card number 1 involves watercoloring. Now, I'm not using watercolor paper. This is 200 GSM Ivory cardstock. It takes water well, but the texture is definitely missing. So you can use a watercolor paper for an easier blending of colors and for that added texture. As you can see, I used camel watercolor cakes. These can be very vibrant depending on the amount of color that you pick. They mix well, and since this particular pack has 24 shades, I don't need to work too hard to make darker and lighter shades. If you're as lazy as me, you'd probably love this too. I'm working with pink and purple to create a sort of magical sky. Mostly I dab my brush rather than paint in strokes because I don't want harsh lines. Notice how I kept 1/3 of the panel darker. This sort of looks like twilight, but I realized it needed just a little bit of yellow there. Once it was all dry, I went ahead and did some splatters using 3 colors of acrylic paint. The first one is obviously white, as it will bring the panel and the white space on the card together. The second color I chose for splatter is gold. It sort of complements the touch of yellow in the background. And I think a touch of gold adds so much elegance to any project. I wanted smaller splatters, so I used a much thinner brush and almost no water. Once the background was ready, I stamped 2 lamps and the sentiment from this really gorgeous stamp set by Craftyscrappers. I stamped it with Versamark. This is a small stamp set, but as you can see, it is loaded with pretty images. I then white embossed everything. In the past, I have tried doing embossing first and then coloring, as in an emboss resist technique. But honestly, I think embossing over a finished background gives a more vibrant look. Now, lamps cannot be just there on their own. They need some support, and evidently my white marker didn't help. So I'm going to pierce a hole and use this really gorgeous zari thread here. This is an embroidery thread. Adding such details always adds something extra to your project. I got this thread in my local market. I really don't know how to use it on clothes, but God, I love using them in my paper projects. Now that my panel is ready, all that's left to do is to glue this to a card base. I'm keeping something heavy on the panel so that it dries without getting curled up. And here's how my finished card looks. Let's move on to the second card. For this card, I used Damask This stamp set by Craftyscrappers. It is a background building stamp set and comes with 3 different sizes of damask. I used 5 colors to stamp the images in different sizes. You can see the 5 colors I used on the screen right now. Ivory cardstock works great for this technique as the stamping is quite smooth. Even if the image stamping is not perfect, the way I am stamping it makes it look just fine. There is no particular manner of stamping, but notice how I kept the colors more or less evenly distributed throughout the panel. As you can see, I used yellow from Distress Oxide, so you can definitely stretch your supplies. I mounted the panel directly on the card. For card 3, I'll be using this gorgeous gold colored cardstock. I bought it as a set from handmade.com. They come with gold envelopes and are very cost effective. I start with stamping the lamps. This time I'll stamp 4 of them with Versamark and gold emboss to match the gold with my cardstock. This particular card is actually my favorite among the 5 I created, and therefore I'll be sending it to one of my closest friends who will celebrate Eid next weekend. I'm going to heat set everything. The embossing powder I used gives a subtle gold color, just perfect for my card. As I did with the first card, I pierced some holes on the top of each lamp. Before putting in the embroidery thread, let's color it first. I am doing some basic blending here. Did you know distress oxide blends beautifully with distress inks? This is actually artistry ink and it behaves like distress ink only. I bought it long ago. It's actually a brownish red color, but with it just mixes so well with the yellow and gives this really pretty orange color. I used a finger dauber to put concentrated quantities of yellow inside the lamp. It makes the lamp stand out from the rest of my background. And here's the finished card. Card 4 is a different one. I'll use soft pastels to color the background. I'll start with white at the center and move towards yellow, then orange, red, purple, and ultimately black. Soft pastels are easy to mix. They're even water friendly. I'm using my fingers here to mix the colors evenly. Once my background is ready, I am going to take the image of a lamp from the same stamp set and stamp it in black archival ink. As I plan to do some Copic coloring on this, it's a very tiny stamp, so the coloring is really easy. I'm going to add the image with foam adhesive on the panel such that it looks like the lamp is illuminating the panel. Since the focal image on this card is rather simple, I decided to decorate it a little more. I put glossy accents on the lamp, and here is a glass liner. It's actually used for glass paintings. It flows very evenly and gives a shiny dimension, and as you can see, it helps me create really thin lines. It adds that little extra to this card. I added the sentiment also, but it still needed a base to stand. I just couldn't leave it flying in the air. You will see the finished card towards the end of the video. For card 5, I did some basic ink blending using 2 shades of distress oxide. After all of these warm cards, I decided to make one with cool colors. Cracked pistachio and broken china go so well with each other. Once I'm done with the entire background, I'll spritz it with some water. Let it sit for a minute or for 1 or 2 seconds, and then lift the color with a dry cloth. Since I didn't do a different technique, so I decided to show you the card directly. This is how it looks. The gloss that you see is because of Sakura 3D gel pen, and the flowers are made from a stencil. This is how the next card looks. I added gold Nuvo drops as well. And here is my favorite card. I added some gemstones to make it look even better. I hope you like the 5 cards and we'll try something like this. If you want to watch more such videos, hit the subscribe button. It motivates me to create more such videos. Thanks for stopping by. Have a great day and Eid Mubarak.